All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's InPowered Consent Conversations. I am Christina McCabe. Let's see. I feel like I'm hearing some. There it is. Okay. Is there any background noise? Are you hearing an echo? Okay, I was. Anyway, hi everyone. Sorry for the little kerfuffle. So we are live. Christina McCabe. I'm a relationship and sex coach with a focus on the erotic blueprints, consent, and speaking our authentic desires. We are gathered today to talk about empowered consent and shame. And I am joined by this week's gorgeous guest experts, Camilla Davis and Alan Mcphee. Welcome, both of you.
Hello.
I'm going to have them introduce themselves in just a minute so they can speak to you in their own voices about who they are and what they bring to the conversation. But first, I want to let you know a little bit more about how we flow and why we're here. So I have been facilitating and alchemizing these gorgeous consent conversations because I'm really passionate about consent. I like to bring empowered consent to you in a way that has a focus on consent being exciting and healing, inspiring, an avenue for deeper intimacy and connection. So each week I'm bringing together experts in relationships and sexuality and intimacy so we can get you the tools to create empowered consent in your relationships, in your life, in a way that really gets you heard, understood, and fulfilled. Take a look at the description above and you will find Camilla, Allen, and my contact information as well as a YouTube link. If you're on YouTube, hi y'all, welcome. To watch past forum replays, make sure you push that subscribe button so you'll get notified when we go live next time. Also, we love you to be involved here, so feel free to ask questions or make comments via the chat, and I will monitor them to get you heard if I'm able to. Be sure to stick around at the end for what I like to call our resource roundtable, and that is where each of these gorgeous people, if they desire to, will be letting you know a little bit more about what they have coming up and how you can work with them. All right, I do want to let you all know that we are talking about shame. And shame may have some trigger warnings. Here, it could bring up some past trauma or triggers. So I just want you all to really take a moment to get any self-care needs taken care of before we head into the conversation so that you have what you need to really explore with us. All right. There you are. Fantastic. I think we lost you for a second.
Yes.
Yeah, I would love you both to introduce yourselves now if you would like to.
Ladies first.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Camilla Davis, and I'm a sexual freedom and intimacy coach. And I help individuals and those that are in relationships uncover, rediscover, and tap into their power so that they can be their most authentic self through various flavors of pleasure.
Yum. Welcome. And this is your first time on these conversations?
Yes,
Really excited to get your voice heard. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you for joining. Going to be exciting to explore with you. Alan.
My name is Alan Mcphee, although I prefer to be called a metaphysician because my degree is in philosophy, and that is metaphysics. I provide coaching in yoga, tantra, and also alchemy. And I primarily focus on people in the conscious community. I try to bring all the background research and the practical side together to help people become the best version of themselves. I focus on what I call the metaphysics of self-development, how to reach your higher self in all areas of your life. I look at all the background energy work and all the practical things and put it together for whoever comes before me.
Yes.
I'm glad to be here today.
Oh, fantastic. I am so glad that you're here with us as well. And this is your first time on these conversations. And I'm really excited to explore with you, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
So for those of you watching, joining for the first time, or if you've watched prior, you all know that we always like to start these by asking what is empowered consent. I love to ask each guest's intimacy expert to let you know what that means to them, and I will as well. And then you all could take all that information and really marinate in what empowered consent means for you as well. What is empowered consent?
Well, when I hear the word empowered consent, it's all about embodying what feels good to you and what is a hell yes for you. And so living and acknowledging, living, speaking, engaging, experiencing anything in your life from that place of a hell yes. You know, so I'm a firm believer that our pussy knows. And so when you tap into that area, when you tap into your yoni, when you tap into your intuition, and you speak and you live your life from that space, you then eventually, well, not eventually, you will be empowered when you are speaking and saying yes or saying no.
From that deeper awareness of self.
Definitely.
Embodied as well, I think I'm hearing you say, right?
Yes, it is definitely something that is embodied. You know, because sometimes we can get in our heads about various different things or kind of fluctuate about that. But when you know, you know.
Yeah, thank you, Camilla.
I would say for me, consent, empowered consent. I don't like that word too much. I think I prefer the word conscious consent.
Okay.
Because I do a lot of tantra work, right? And the idea is that consent is both verbal, nonverbal, conscious and unconscious, and to become aware of consent on all levels. You cannot turn back the wheel of time. We have engaged with people all the time. We give consent sometimes. We have certain habits of giving people consent, and we're not even aware of it. So when you use the word empowered consent, it's to become fully aware of your consenting machinery. I mean, when you give that guy the look, then he's coming to you because you consented. You agreed for him to come talk to you. You don't have to give it verbally, but I think when you are not aware of your consenting machinery or how you can give people consent, permission just to talk to you and say hi, then it's confusion, it's problems along the way. And when you're more aware of it, that be empowered, okay? When you're more aware of it, then you can manage it better. And when things don't go in a certain way, and you recognize you gave that person the consent, you can reverse the consent. You don't rather than blaming the other person, you've taken responsibility for all your cues you're giving out to the person. That's the way I would view empowered consent.
Thank you for that view, Alan. I do want to play with it with you just a little bit, of course, always, right? Yeah, fun.
No,
fun, everyone, because we get to play and expand perspective, right? And understanding. So it's super exciting. First, I just want to let you all know my version of empowered consent, and then we'll go and play with that a little bit more. So I've really been diving deep with the Consent Academy. I will later put that link in the chat for you all. I don't have it currently. I apologize for that. But the Consent Academy defines consent as having the capacity, information, agency, ability to give honest, an authentic answer without coercion or undue influence. And I really like a lot about that. I also, though, really like to add in kind of an emotional maturity or a higher awareness so that we can lay a nice foundation for others to speak to us safely as well. So much about capacity, and capacity goes big, right? So much can influence our capacity to really show up and give consent. I really liked, Alan, how you brought forward the understanding of how many ways we are speaking. I think that's so important for us to always pay attention to, because people are speaking to us in a wide variety of ways as well. What I would invite there is just to always confirm what we think we're hearing, be it verbal, nonverbal, body language, tone of voice, whatever cues we think we're getting, to confirm that that's really what that person is saying to us. Because we know so many things can put a lens on how we interpret other people's expression.
Right, right. Yeah, and I agree with that in the sense that, I want to set everyone up for success. So I'm taking the guesswork out of it for you. I'm going to communicate, especially if I'm in a place to be able to communicate. If I'm not in a place to be able to communicate, then I'm not able to give consent, right? So again, setting someone up for success and communicating yes or no and being very firm and not having that space to play around so that you have to guess if I'm really saying yes to you or if I'm really saying no to you.
So that you're taking the ambiguity out of the equation.
Yes.
Yes. What do you think, Alan?
I think it's complicated. I think that for myself, I have to develop my language first. And as I approach someone else, then I have to become aware of them and how they are. I live in Florida, and you can be thrown off cues all the time. When people from out of town come here, they think the woman in front of them is in love with them, and she's just being friendly because that's the way we roll over here. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think you first need to know your language, your sense of you're agreeing to things or not, all right? And then you look at the other person, that they're not you. So you can't say, I have my language, your language are the same. And so sometimes you may get cues from people, but it's nothing, there's no encounter with the person. You're not even talking with the person. You may think whatever you like, but if you're going to engage with the person, yes, then you have to be very, very cautious. Then you follow all the protocol of safety of, did you mean, or hello, how are you? You can just say hi and look at the person's expression and try to, there's different way to feel what you think is a consent or not. So I agree with you, but I think it's complicated. It's not no hard and fast rule because every individual in front of you is different. If I'm gonna, because overstepping the boundary at what level? Certainly not, I'm not gonna be touching you. So there's so many levels of boundaries to be crossed, and some of them, how you can be touching someone you did not confirm, you can even say hi to them. So I agree. You gotta be sensitive and look at the situation. You're in a work environment, you're in a personal environment, what is going on? In corporate America, complimenting someone on their clothing can get you in trouble. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've been in that situation before, and the woman had a nice dress. Now, can I compliment your dress, Karen? Sure, Alan. Then I complimented her, and we laughed about the corporate protocol, but then it was necessary in that environment because there is structures in place in that environment for you don't cross those lines. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's why I think these conversations are so important. Yes. And again, thank you, Christina, for spearheading this and starting these conversations, because again, the more we talk about it, the more people become well informed. They're able to come up with what's consent for them, because it is an individual thing, like you're saying, Alan, or what have you. So again, having the conversations is the beginning.
I totally agree.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I love that as well. I love the know your own language.
Yeah.
I think that really speaks to that higher awareness of knowing that Camilla mentioned, and I talk about a lot in these conversations. Almost every guest that steps in here with us talks about having that higher awareness of self, on some, if not all levels. I want to add that I think it's really important as well to have an opening in ourselves that if we're asking, I think someone's maybe giving me that eye, right? So I'm going to go up and approach them and I'm going to ask them, hey, were you inviting me over with that look? And they say, no. Actually, I wasn't. I just was being friendly, right? Which not a lot of people are going to do, unfortunately. I want to hear it, y'all. Tell me. right? We want that clear communication. We want to celebrate those no's. I'll celebrate you if you tell me no.
Yes.
However, it's difficult for a lot of people to hear no. So I think that's also an aspect of this bigger empowered consent conversation that we have to keep sprinkling in here so that we have that ability to say no to people without feeling afraid for whatever reason that we'll get an emotional backlash, we'll hurt someone's feelings, we'll be seen as this or that, right?
Well, I think that if you really try to understand the language of communication, so recently, I'm walking down the street and this woman is trying to get my attention. And I walk one way and she's giving me the Google eyes. And then I'm walking back later the other way, half an hour later going the other way. And just like you're saying, I said, Alan, she's looking at you. You know what I mean? And then I looked at her straightforward rather than just looking at it lightly because I'm about to pass where she's at. And she's clear that she wasn't sure she had my attention. So she winked. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in that moment, she was very clear what she wanted, right? And she wanted me to come and talk to her. In that moment also, I had to convey to her, I didn't want to talk to her. You know what I mean? And so I had to, very lightly, no one needs to be aware. We just went to communication, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's very beautiful, but I don't have time for this kind of stuff right now. So I communicated no to her very lightly, and we shared the communication, and we continued. I didn't want to stop and talk to her, but then I was kind of trapped then. So
yeah, no.
On the same level she came towards me, I approached her in the same way. So I think I agree with you, but I would say really try to look at the language of communication that people have, especially in the dating realm, and see how you can use it for both when you want to say no, when you want to say yes, without escalating. Because when somebody's nod no, it's easier to take than a verbal no. So I would de-escalate the situation. I hope I didn't hurt this lady, but she looks very good. So I don't know why she's looking at me, but the next guy can come along.
That's a really great example of how a nonverbal communication was really successful. It sounds like.
Yes, and so I think it's no real big feeling hurt because no one was aware of this little engagement there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nice. I'm happy to hear that. And we talked about, we've had a couple of I tend to repeat some of these, y'all, because I think some of these topics are so important. So shame is one of them. Power dynamics is one of them. Kink is one of them, right? Tantra we're going to do again. And culture is one of them. And in the past ones and in the future, I think it'll come up again. How does culture affect our ability to hear or give empowered consent? And that people think of culture in different countries, different ethnicities, and yet even within family to family, same town, right? Family dynamics, interpersonal relationships, culture can come into play in a lot of ways that affect our voices. So I bring that up just because I want to continue to just invite you all to clarify, because sometimes it seems very clear, like that seemed like a really successfully clear nonverbal communication that Alan just gave us, right? But sometimes we're making all kinds of stories up about what other people think are intending with their communication. Yeah. All right, so that was fun. We just went down a little road. And I also want to just presence that I'm a little bit stuttery on my wording because I have a mold toxicity problem and I've been exposed. So I'm a little brain foggy. So everyone, please just have a little bit of patience with me, and thank you for holding that space out there for me to still show up here, but be a little everywhere in my brain fog. So what is shame then?
I would say it's anything that we feel violates like our or violates societal norms, especially anything that we grew up with believing in. Yeah, that's just, to me, that's just what shame is anything that, violates, quote unquote, what society says is supposed to be right in a certain situation or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
well, for me, again, it's complicated. In my work, I have to constantly, for years, this is for real. You may be doing a workshop now, but every year I'm working on trying to refine the definition of pride and shame, shamelessness, pridelessness, arrogance for my regular work. So this is an ongoing discussion, researching the impact of pride on the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church went to war with each other over the definition of what constitutes pride.
Yeah.
So my latest invention, discovery, is that pride and shame are like love and hate. Pride represents a positive. You do something because it makes you feel good and things like that. It's an emotion that is motivates you. Or you possess something, you did something that's great, or something close to you having that's positive, you feel good. And shame is an emotion. It's the opposite of pride, I would say. It's an emotion that causes us to, as Camilla just said, because if there's a social normative and I'm supposed to fulfill that normative, if I don't do X according to what my parents say, I'm going to feel shame because once I've accepted these are the rules, if I don't fulfill it, I'm not going to feel the pride. I'm going to feel the negative. I'm going to feel the opposite. I feel ashamed. I didn't get that doctor's degree like my brother and my father and things like that. I feel ashamed. You know what I mean? So I think once you've understood, it's a powerful force. Okay, but once you see it's a powerful force there that can actually there's a positive side to it, but it can actually limit you. You're going to self-judge. And others around you, if you're in that family system or wherever, they're going to make you feel that way as well. They expect you to feel shame. And so for me, it's first and foremost an emotion that drives us to, or maybe cause us to refrain from action, basically. You know what I mean? Much of it, refrain completely go inside. The worst case scenario is super shy person. You know what I mean? So
yeah, a withdrawal because feelings of not enough or not capable or not worthy, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you all are familiar with Brene Brown. I love Brene Brown, and I look at a lot of her work, and I love to put just definitions out there. So I'm going to put a couple definitions out there. So the definition that just comes up, what is shame, is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. Scientific America says we feel shame when we violate the social norms we believe in. At such moments, we feel humiliated, exposed, and small, and are unable to look another person in the eye. Shame makes us direct our focus inward and view our entire selves in a negative light. And Brene actually says that shame is not an emotional, it's an emotion, it's a core belief about who you think you are that is developed by emotions of humiliation or belief of wrongdoing, right?
Yeah.
And I like that distinction just because I think it levels it up for us in importance of how deeply rooted into our structures shame can be. Because we think of an emotion such as guilt, which is similarly expressed. But as Brene says, guilt is, I have done something wrong. And that's a great meter on integrity, right? I have done something wrong. I'm going to look at that and maybe change my behavior because it doesn't match my values as a person. Whereas shame is, I am wrong. I just am not okay at all. And it's not a meter. It is a self-imploding belief system that takes us out of connection.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that, because shame does create that embarrassment, that humiliation, to where we want to retreat, right? We want to hide, we want to withdraw, we feel like we're not good enough. And we're placing all of this on ourselves, right? Based on what we've been taught growing up, based on what we learned in the church, based on, you know, the environment of your friends, that you may associate with. If you don't look or behave a certain way, you start to, look at that and compare yourself. And then you start to feel like you're not good enough, right? And so I know my own personal experience, I've experienced shame, just in the church, and so even me doing this work, it took me a while to finally say, I'm going to do this full out, because there was the shame of, oh my gosh, am I going to really talk about intimacy and sex and relationships and what that looks like? And, but I know what the power is behind all of this. I know how we can actually save and heal relationships and marriages. So why wouldn't we want to talk about this? Why wouldn't we want to do this? Right. But I had a lot of shame because of how I grew up. And so I had to work through my own conditioning of, do I really believe that? Or was it just something that I was told that I was supposed to believe? Kind of thing. And I had to do my own internal work in order to get to where I am like today.
Yeah, that self-awareness work.
Yeah.
Looking it in the eye and saying what is mine and what is not mine.
What is not mine, right. And I got rid of a lot of shit.
I don't.
Yes.
I am, although I'm trying to understand Renee's position about trying to say it's not an emotion. I do not see it. Okay. And so what I could see she trying to do is perhaps help some people because of the overwhelming power of shame, trying to redefine it so that people can escape from it. And that is cool. But guilt is different from shame, because guilt is a particular feeling about a particular situation. I'm guilty about, I can still say I'm guilty about X. I did the crime. I stole the candy, right? But shame is all pervasive. You're just correct. It is all pervasive, but it's just like pride. So everything you shared, I totally accept, except the notion that shame is not an emotion. No.
Doesn't sit with you, huh?
It's because it is an emotion, but it's pervasive.
Yeah.
Everything you said is correct. I just thought of a shame myself, okay? Camilla said to shame of the church. I escaped that one and I ran the yoga, okay? But I have a greater shame. I'm an intellectual. I'm a heavyweight intellectual. And so to do metaphysical work, to even mention the word alchemy amongst my co-workers in that area, the amount of shame that's involved is so overwhelmed, it's crippling. While I was actually doing my work, I realized many of this stuff that the alchemists were promoting, we've changed the name and we're still spitting out the exact same thing to the people. And I realized now I'm playing word games. I'm ashamed of these people, but here I am teaching people the exact same thing. You change the name, but it's still the same thing. That's what I realized.
Great awareness.
Yeah,
awareness, right? I mean, that's how we move forward. That's how we change systems, is by bringing that awareness.
Yes, and so I made a declaration. I'm gonna be an alchemist. I went to them and said, yes, I'm gonna drink the mercury. Yes, guy, go ahead, laugh. Because I want to face this head on, because I want to explore this without the chattering in the box, the intellectual community. Is this irrational and stuff like that? Isn't this because the church may be bad, but I don't think they're better than the university folks. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, I want to just make sure that we're not going down too many other roads, right?
No.
Go way down all those roads.
Yes,
all of that. But how does shame then impact our ability to give empowered consent? And it's absolutely okay to not agree about the emotions. I go with that. I think it is a core belief that is developed and deeply painful emotions arise from it. But we can absolutely disagree, Alan. I am okay with that. But what I'd like to know is, what do you want our viewers to know about how shame impacts our ability to give empowered consent?
Like, even when I think about that, like, I can think of an example, as we're speaking of, like, the church, for example. We're taught to, when you get married in a heterosexual relationship, you get married, you're supposed to serve and take care of your husband, right? And so, which also promotes the idea that there's no voice, that we don't have a voice, or that we can't speak about our needs or desires. And so when it comes to empowered consent, it's almost as if it's taken away, in a sense. It's, my body is not mine, and I can't say no if I don't want to be intimate in this moment, per se, right? Because this is my husband and I need to, make sure that I'm having sex with my husband, because if I don't, then someone else will, right? So this is the messages and things that people are being told, and so it does take away that feeling of, can I even say no? And then you start to feel guilty, you start to feel shameful, and you start to feel, and it just continues to build on, on that belief for yourself, So again, when you're not one, knowing who you are and standing for what you believe, and what that is for you, and how you're choosing to live your life regardless of what others think or feel, you're able to give consent from that space. From a maybe uninformed, I guess, or lack of knowledge. You're giving consent from a place of, like, lack of knowledge or education or whatever it is, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
I would, if I was going to give advice, I would tell the audience, know thyself. So I would say they should explore with idea of shame. That is, they should think about what makes them feel shameful in a relationship. Just sit down and think about it. The reason is this: when we are programmed, like Camilla have just said, we're not aware of it until, like, it's too late. All right. And so I think you would reflect a little bit on this idea. Where are your triggers for shame? Because when you suddenly meet the woman of your, she's the one. And that shame from the back comes across, maybe from the church. You're not supposed to be that kind of woman. You never thought about that. And that shame will not be able to allow you to fully engage in that consent. Yes, I will marry you. Yes, let's go out. So I think that this idea of consent and shame is because it's in a world of emotions, whether you like it or not, it's always there with you. It's not that all of a sudden you're going to feel shame on this occasion. You never could feel that in the past. It's already part of who you are, part of your programming. So I would say one of the best things to do is to participate in these kind of conversations. Sit with yourself in the meditation and ask yourself, what sort of thing triggers shame in me? In all areas of my life, basically, especially in a relationship. Just think about it. When you see those triggers during those times of introspection, you can go back in time and see where they may have arisen, right? Because when you're in a regular relationship, when you're about to try to make consent, that thing it comes over you real quickly. It covers you. You can't even say yes to a particular person because that person has a background and your triggers have said no to that particular person already. You know
or
what I mean?
say no to somebody, right?
Yeah. If they what?
Or no, because you think you should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to. Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree. What Camilla said was about being married, and you'll have this role, you fulfill this role and things like that. And if you don't fill that role, you feel less than. You know what I mean? And I want to say it's both ways as well.
Yeah.
Men, because they've done study in psychology like this. Okay, men, when they take on the role of being a husband, they change psychologically, and they have certain expectation on them, and all of a sudden they go through a lot of problems they didn't have before they were married. So it's not just the women, it's the men too, right? And they can, out of shame that comes after them because they're supposed to fulfill this role, they can do some horrible things because of it. So I would say reflection would be very important. So your answer, I would say, is very, very significant. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted. You know what I mean? No matter what you're saying, what you want to agree to, understand that shame, covered up shame, unreflective shame that's maybe in the background you're not even aware of, can actually interfere with everything you want to do. You know?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And I want to add to that as well, just in the sense of.
Can I ask you, actually, do one of you have another device with this streaming on it, a Facebook open, or?
I have Facebook and my page on.
Could you take those both off? I think we're hearing some background from
feedback too.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
That means we're hearing the hearing it play on there after we speak. Thank you, Alan. Camilla, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna like piggyback on that and expand as well in regards to, I think if there was something that someone can actually do to tackle this, or just to kind of start to dive into this a little bit more, is definitely looking at every area of your life. Mm-hmm. And just start writing and just start journaling the thoughts, the mindset, the things that you were told, right? Mm-hmm. And really dive into that to see, does this serve me now today? Mm-hmm. You know, do I really believe this or feel this now? Or is it something that was, you know, told to me, it was programmed, like, right, for me or what have you? Because we all change and we continue to grow and we continue to elevate and get to different levels, right? So I always say new level, new devil, right? So when we get to this next level, we still need to evaluate. We still need to evaluate the next stage in our life. And does this still, you know, resonate with me? Does mm-hmm. this belief about something still resonates with me? Mm-hmm. Because again, if we don't really do that kind of work and really like look at that, we start to feel like we're failing because we can never get it right. Both, you know, men and women, we're feeling like we can never get it right. You know, I'm supposed to protect, like he talked about for men, protect and provide and take care of and be responsible. And all this weight is on their shoulders, right? But they feel like they can never live up to whatever this image that has been created for them. So I would just definitely say to walk away from it is just being able to really dive into various areas, look and see if it serves you at this place right now where you are today.
Thank you. And then how is it impacting the areas in life that you may have ambiguous consent, you may have assumed consent, you may be giving or not giving your consent, right? So first, the awareness of where is shame showing up in all different areas. And then how is it impacting my voice?
Yeah.
And where did it come from? First, right? You said, where is it? Where did it come from? Is that mine? Do I want to own it?
Yeah.
Right? And then how is it impacting our voice? And I'm just going to keep bringing it back to our voice, everyone, because we're talking about consent here. But, you know, shame and these belief systems can get so grounded into, woven into how we identify our very identity structures that until we bring the awareness to them, we don't really have agency. Right. And part of empowered consent is having agency. It has having a higher awareness of what you want and the ability to express it. When you're in shame, you are creating power dynamics within yourself that don't give you the capacity to show up for consent for yourself and to hear it from others. Does that sound clear, the power dynamics? Just you both agree to that? Relate to that? Alan, I'm thinking there.
I'm my expression. I will not play poker, obviously, folks, because I was trying to understand and I was trying to do stuff on Facebook, but I mean, I would say, I don't know how to deal with it. I would say that if you have shame in just a small area is okay. I've seen in cases where it's big in the person in a relationship, they just have a certain amount of shame about all of sexuality and relating and things like that. And if that's a personal thing, a personal stigma for yourself, then it's problem. It's not the other person. It's you have difficulty opening up or agreeing to the person the way you want. On one hand, you constantly want to be there for that person. In fact, you want to say, I agree, I consent, and things like this, but you are unable to because the shame pulls you away from that. It pushes you in the other direction. And so when you say power dynamics, it presupposes you're kind of like on the same wavelength in terms of your shame, I don't know, test or level or something like that. You know what I mean? It has to be some kind of dynamic. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, let me explain that then. When you have a power, when you are in a place of shame, right, you have made yourself less in your own viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Less than, unworthy, not capable, not enough. So you've taken yourself from a place of equality with another person, and then you've lowered yourself down in your own worthiness. And from that place of not feeling worthy or enough or capable or desirable or whatever the emotion around that, you've put yourself at a lower power dynamic. And you've put the other person higher than you. And that has nothing to do with them. It has to do with you personally. Your own systems of belief within you. And so that's the way that it creates a power dynamic in relationships. It creates it within ourselves too, because I have consent with myself first and foremost, right? If I am in a shame spiral, and I work on this, y'all. I work on this hard, but we all have them, right? Because of the kind of, we're humans. And because of the kind of world we live in, we can all go through these spirals. So when I'm in a spiral, I'm not even feeling worthy for whatever reason of giving myself the consent or not consenting. So I know when I'm in that place, I'm maybe not going to go out, flirting, or I'm not going to put myself in areas where I'm not capable of meeting my own consent for myself with others. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does.
What do y'all think? Was that clear?
Yeah.
For me, I'm thinking when I speak to clients, or even when I'm dealing with my own self, I look at it through the eyes of the metaphysician or alchemist. It's a discovery. I am feeling shame about this, but I don't remember putting myself in that. I just recognize I'm in that state. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
From the state of discovery, I say, how do I go forward? And what you're saying is very correct. Sometimes I say, okay, I'm not going to go to that place because I don't have the confidence to go to there and be the way I normally am. You know what I mean? And other times, maybe I can work through it out. I can figure out how to shift my consciousness from that area to another area by watching certain movies or whatever techniques you have. But I think it's being aware of your state at that moment. If you don't feel that certain confidence, I just aware of it. I don't like to say I put myself in there because I would not really put myself in there if I could actually control it. But I end up that way because of my prior programming or some beliefs I picked up. And I identify with a certain idea. And then once I latch onto this idea, this occurs in the world, I feel shame because I latched onto a particular idea that allowed me to go into that space.
Yeah.
So
about who you are and how you relate, or your position in the world. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so I would say, yes, you have to, I focus on the opposite a lot. I focus on pride and feeling good about where you are in the moment. So I don't come from shame. Is that you end up with shame because when something might happen, that's big. For me, I focus on the pride, the passion. What makes you feel good? Where are you in the moment? And when you're in the pride mood or in passion or in love, those positive feelings what drives you. And so if you end up in the shame mode, that's like stepping back for me when I'm coaching. Okay, let's deal with this. We can feel shame some of the time, but are you stuck there? If you're stuck in shame, that's a real internal power dynamics of Christina type.
But I think what Christina was saying, because again, she knew herself in that moment. She knew, right, that, so it goes back to that, knowing yourself. If I know that I'm feeling like this, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I feel like I'm not able to fully, give that consent, no matter what that would be, right?
Right.
And so it is about like knowing yourself, and then also adding a layer of like boundaries. There are people that don't know themselves.
Right.
Because and they have no boundaries. They've never been taught boundaries or what have you, right? And so because they don't know themselves and they don't have boundaries, they may end up in situations that they would not want to be in.
Right.
Right. So it still goes back to then again, like knowing yourself.
Absolutely. Always coming back to that.
Yeah.
And those aren't even just situations that are sexual.
No.
For all of you out there, I may reschedule a doctor's appointment if I don't feel like I can actually express what I need to that doctor, right? Or create the boundaries I need. Or I'm not going to go sign important business contracts when I'm in a shame spiral because I'm not going to make the right choices for myself.
Right.
So, yeah, it's not just sexual.
No, not at all. I mean, it can be like even in professionally, like if you think about how many times did you say yes to your supervisor, your boss, you know, they know that you're an amazing worker and you can do the job and they just keep dumping stuff on you, right? And you can do it. Oh, you're so good at it. Thank you. And you just keep putting the work out, just keep putting it out, right? That was me, you know, right? And it's like, and at what point do you finally say no? At what point do you finally set that boundary for yourself? And knowing that it's okay to say no, because no is a complete statement, right? So understanding that, and again, it happens in various different areas. It's not just about relationships and sex.
Yeah. Thank you. Amazing. Let's just say it one more time. No is a complete statement. It doesn't have to be, but it is as well. Right.
Right. And there doesn't have to be any explanation behind it because we're taught, right, that we have to explain. No, I don't want to go because I have this going on. No, I want to, I don't want to, I'm not going to be able to do this right now because of this, and this. And you're just sharing, like opening up the door, like to everything that's going on. And it's like, no, thank you. No.
Yep.
And that's it, right?
Right.
You're pretty used to practicing that. It's just a complete statement.
I wanted to add something.
Sure.
To what the two of you are saying, and this is the empowered consent part. I always say to some viewers out there, all of you are practitioners, so you have more knowledge and more tools in your toolbox to work with. I would say to the viewers out there who may be encountering certain amount of shame or know they have been in that situation before, what we're saying here as a group is that this is just a phenomenon. Whether you call it an emotion, a wave of beliefs or something, it's something you get around. And it's something that may be an obstacle to where you really, really want to be. So deal with it. You may not have the complete solution now, but I think what we're sharing here right now is that it's okay to deal with it. It's not like, I feel this way, therefore I cannot. No. You feel this way, recognize it, but now what do you want to do? You may be able to solve it in the moment, but actually you can put it to the side for now, be brave and say that no, no thank you, and then work around it because it's just part of your system right now. I think that's the empowered consent what we're sharing right now. That's what I wanted to share.
Thank you for that, Ellen. Yeah, it's not a done deal, right? Yeah. You're shamed, so now you can't create consent. Now you can't move forward and actually have self-worth because shame has, for whatever reason, become a part of your structure of belief. That's not true, right? There's so many ways that we can rewire our belief systems about ourselves and the world around us. And in doing that, improve our ability to give and receive empowered consent, and therefore deepen our intimacy and our connections in all relationships. Yeah. Right? Okay. Yeah. I mean, it just does this. Yeah. Right? It comes from here and you start, oh, I'm feeling good, right? And then you just bring that out into your close and, further relationships, into all aspects of your life. So it is, it's a service, y'all.
Yes.
Let's do this. Yeah. So how do you begin that journey? If you're watching and you want some tools to gain this kind of self-awareness of, I have shame, I'm going to look at where it's coming from, I'm going to choose if that belief system really matches my own belief of self, or I want to rewire that. Beginning tools to start that journey.
Was that a question?
Yes.
That's a good one. All right.
Yes.
I would share. That's a good one. And I'm going to share my general tool for people. It's called meditation. But let me tell you what meditation means. I'm a yogi and I'm a master at yoga, right? So meditation is going within. The mind, the brain works in a way science sounds very mechanically, all right? If you sit down in this chair, close your eyes, and it doesn't matter what you think about, as long as your eyes are closed for like 10 minutes, your mind automatically goes within. You're going to recall memories, issues, emotions, ideas. You just watch them. Don't try to shut your mind down. Don't get any sophisticated Buddhist. Don't do anything that'll stress you out. Keep your eyes closed. Set a little time your watch for 10 minutes. That is called meditation. What happens? Automatically, it's called intuition. Your mind begins to drift inside. All right? It begins to go inside automatically. The fear, this is a real technique. People are afraid of meditation because the mind is a mirror. It begins to show you what's inside. And we don't like to see ourselves. So therefore, 10 minutes is actually a long time. So folks, maybe do 5 minutes and then build to 10 minutes. And I'm not recommending you go sit for hours and meditate. But the reason I say this is that if you do that in the morning when it's calm and peaceful for you and you sit there for 10 minutes, you'll discover throughout the day when something happens, you can easily reflect inside and see what's going on. You can always go in quickly because you went inside in the morning. You know, after a week, you are accustomed to going inside and say, check in. Hey, what's going on? Something to trigger me. I go into situations, sometimes something trigger me. I'm upset. And I stop. Clink, 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 clink. And I go inside. Oh, so-and-so did this. Why was I triggered? Because I held that person on a certain pedestal and they violated the pedestal I put them on. It wasn't them. It was me. I had to go release that. Then I feel good again. You know what I mean? So
yeah, so you're bringing an awareness to your own responsiveness and reactivity.
And do it slowly. No heavy stuff. 5-10 minutes in the morning. That's it. No, that's what it's a nice little tool. It's easy and it actually works. It actually works.
Yeah. Thank you, Alan. I think I'm really hearing a practice of curious witnessing of self.
Yes. Yes. Beautifully said. Yes.
Yeah. Right? So you're not even trying to silence the mind, but you're right. Turn so many people off from trying to meditate because they just are like, my thoughts are doing this.
Yes.
Right? But you're saying don't silence, just watch with curiosity what's coming. And by doing that consistently, you'll start to recognize more and more where the patterns of your own responsiveness.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Yes, it's perfect. Perfect.
Gorgeous. Thank you.
Yeah.
How about you, Camilla?
I would add to that because definitely meditation is something that we could use. Prayer is another thing that we could use. I also would recommend journaling because some people are not able to sit still and be present. Maybe their nervous system is just, going haywire. They're just not in that space that they're able to do that. So meditation may not work for them in that moment, right?
Yeah.
So it might just be journaling. It might just be writing out your thoughts and just whatever comes up, just write it out, and then you can get to dissect it. You may not be a person who wants to write. I'd even go so far as to record something, get on video or a little recorder on your phone and just record your thoughts, whatever, kind of like works for you. I would say also I'm hearing feedback again.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you just close the tab.
I can't hear him.
Go ahead. I think he muted himself, so we didn't hear it.
Oh, okay.
I muted myself in case it's coming from this side.
Thank you.
All right.
And I would say one other thing that I love to do as well too is movement. Because being able to move, because again, I'm a Tantra practitioner as well. So moving your body or what have you, and getting in that space of being present with yourself. And, and so things come up, when you're moving. I'm a somatic healer, so things come up on the table, right? Like as you're doing things. So yeah, I would offer those as other additional suggestions as well. Just to give people, options. I love options.
Oh, me too. Thank you for that. Yeah, visioning. Yeah. I would also put in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes, visioning us as the person that we really value, right? Yeah. Visioning our highest selves, as well as coming into the body, embodied practices. And of course, as a pleasure coach, I like pleasure for that.
Right?
But that's not necessarily just sex. Sex, yes.
No.
Please, sex, yum, if that works for you, right? But coming into where you're experiencing pleasure can take you out of whatever head spin you're in and stories you're creating often, even if it's just feeling your feet on the ground, the cool or the warm air on your skin, maybe your clothing feels nice. Sometimes I like support systems. All about support systems when it comes to consent. So I have an awareness of places I might need support. So I like soft things. I'll make sure I have something soft to just ground me into the sensation at the moment, or I can really just feel the heaviness of my bottom on the chair, push on my thighs, right? So just bringing whatever feels pleasurable in the moment to bring us out of the negative spin and into the
Yeah.
And then from there, witnessing with curiosity what's arising. Because I also I think that if we just go into straight witnessing of self, while I agree it's an amazing practice, but for me, I can see that maybe finding the way to come embodied and out of the spin to witness is going to give us that higher awareness of self that we're all talking about here, rather than just adding more ingredients to the story that's spinning through our identity at the moment.
Right. And that can look like just going to sit at a park.
Totally.
And I know I was speaking of like closing your eyes to meditation, and I teach meditation with your eyes open. So even if you're just at the park and you're just, again, pleasure, right? What is pleasing to you? So seeing nature, and taking in the environment that's pleasing to you. You're present with yourself. You're embodying that, right? And then that starts to come up. You just start to like think about those things. So there's so many different ways to really, tap into that for yourself.
Thank you. Great tips. Yeah. So then how responsible are we? If we are feeling really empowered, right? If we are feeling in capacity and agency, we're super present with ourselves and holding a nice space for another person, and we are talking consent. How responsible are we to be paying attention to the cues another may start giving around shame, lowering their capacity to be present with their consent with us?
I think we're fully responsible in that, right? I mean, Alan, go ahead. You're going to say. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I think we're fully responsible if we're present and engaging with someone, and we are looking at various things that they're doing, saying, movements, all of that stuff or whatever. But we're still not assuming, so it's a question of asking, I noticed that you're doing this. Tell me what that means.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
Or I think I see this happening. Is that true for you, or what is happening?
Yes. And so it helps you get an understanding so that you're not assuming that, maybe they're closing their eyes when they talk or something like that. And so, or they're looking out and it may appear that they're disinterested in the conversation, but maybe their nervous system is so like they need to kind of look at something to just kind of focus on, in that moment. So someone that may not know that, right, they would just think like, oh, they're just disinterested as we're having a conversation, right? So it's noticing those things. And I think we are fully responsible when you're engaging in conversation with someone.
Thank you. Yeah.
I would agree with that. I don't see I can add anything to that. I think that we might be responsible, but learning to be responsible rather than being fully responsible, being fully conscious of the situation is probably what most people face. You might be responsible. You might say you're responsible. You have to practice responsibility, practice awareness, practice. Practice. You got a new habit of being there in the moment, being present for whatever comes up. I think that's the practice part. Saying I'm responsible and being responsible actually takes work.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
It really does, right?
Yeah. And we're modeling. We're modeling as well, right?
Yes. Yes.
And there's a practice there in making sure that we don't have such an attachment to getting what we're asking for, that we're bypassing the cues in order to receive that. And that's a real emotional maturity that takes that witnessing of self that we were talking about, that higher awareness of self, right? Am I showing up in this moment for them and for me, or am I just showing up trying to get what I really want here, what I think I'm trying to get here?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
It's
As well as, I want to say, I do agree that it's our responsibility. I think we also, though, have the opportunity to say, you know, I asked for this, but for some reason, the conversation isn't feeling, I'm not feeling as engaged in this conversation as I would like us to be. So I'm going to pause it till another time. If it doesn't feel right to call someone out or invite them into that they may be what we perceive as a shame spiral or a trauma response, right? If it doesn't feel comfortable to send them further into a trigger, or if they get defensive and it's not going there, we have that right to say, how about we pause? Maybe this isn't the time to move forward with this consent conversation.
I'm sorry, you lost me a little bit. So maybe I'm backing up go back a little bit.
Do you want me to clarify?
Yeah, clarify bringing them into a shame spiral. Please explain that to me. Give me an talking about.
Oh no, she didn't. Okay.
Certainly.
Excuse me. Yes, I need clarification on what you mean by bringing something, bringing someone into
a shame spiral.
Yeah.
So what that means from what I'm talking about is if I'm asking someone for consent, for some reason, whatever it is, I think I'm seeing that they are triggered and going into shame, and that shame is lowering their capacity. Maybe they're not feeling worthy of saying no. Maybe they don't feel capable of it. Maybe they think that they are not enough or whatever. They're ashamed of the fact that they don't want to say no, right? I'm not enough. I'm not going to be sexy. They're not going to want me, whatever it is. Maybe they're even going into some fawning. I think they're saying yes when they really don't want to be. But it doesn't feel comfortable for me, for whatever reason, to say, I think I see that you're triggered right now. And it doesn't feel good to me to continue forward with the activity that we're trying to give consent to here. It's okay for me to say, for some reason, the energy in this conversation isn't feeling good for me. Let's pause it and come back another time. Did that clarify, Alan?
Yes. Seemed like to me that would be the only option. What's the other option? To go forward?
Well, no, the other option is still pausing it, but it's calling them out maybe a little bit, or inviting them into a discussion about if they're in shame, right? Yeah. The two options, if we see somebody else is triggered in trauma or in shame, are to, like Camilla had said, invite them. I think I see this. Is that what's going on? Or if it doesn't feel comfortable to do that, say, actually, I feel like I'm not feeling good right now about this. Can we pause and maybe revisit it? So you can either invite an exploration about what we think they're seeing, or we can just say, actually, this isn't working for me anymore. What do you think about that? Camilla, Alan?
I personally, I think I put things in context. is this a new date? Am I coaching someone? What the heck is going on? That's my problem. So if it's someone I've been with a long, long time, we start to do something and that emerges, then I have to look at the context of this long-term relationship and how do I manage it to perpetuate the best outcome. I'm looking at the big picture. I cannot help it. So if we have a long-term relationship still, all of a sudden, let's do this. And all of a sudden, you could see the trigger coming. Maybe your shame spiral you're talking about. And that moment right there, now you have to be delicate. Now you have to see how you proceed in such a way that the best outcome comes forward. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a hard, fast rule, depending on situation, things like that, but you got to think of the consequences. I am not your therapist if I'm in a relationship with you. We have to learn to coach through this back and forth and navigate and grow together, you know? So when I'm coaching someone, I have to see whether I can push their envelope. How far can you take today? You know what I mean? Because it's a different kind of game, because you come here for me to push you a little bit so that you can get over to whatever issue you are so you can go forward with your life. You're not here to see me forever and ever and ever. But that will occur in conversation. So I would look at the context. I agree with you. But I think going forward, you have to be you have to be aware. Sometimes you do something, you're not aware until it's already emerged, like the crisis already appeared. And then now you have to manage the crisis. Oops, I've gone too far. I did not see that this person had this kind of background or whatever. Because they put on a facade and you weren't aware that it was a facade. It was a show for you. In reality, they had a different kind of background. And so therefore,
or they just got triggered.
They got triggered.
Or
they got
something
triggered.
in the moment triggered a shame or a trauma for them.
Yeah, and then you have to manage what's in front of you right there. And you do the best. I always think of the opposite, the long term. You know what I mean? What is the long-term scenario that I want? I want the best outcome to occur. If that means being silent, that means walking away. What is the best outcome? Because people's feelings are involved. There's something have come forward on them, or something that's triggered in me that's not been triggered before. How do I manage when I'm being triggered? How do I manage myself?
Coming forward with care.
Yeah, coming forward with care. Yeah.
What do you think, Camilla?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it goes back to, like, we do have the responsibility, but there's also they're responsible as well. So that's why I was speaking of, like, possibly, you know, you're leading by example, right? You're modeling for them as you're having that conversation. So even if you are taking that pause because you're noticing something, and you may be asking that question, whether you decide to table the conversation for later, or whether you continue on even in the conversation, you know, it's one of those things to, if you're like Allison is pushing them a little bit more, right? Like, so it may be something where, you know, you are asking them where they're feeling it. Like, we're looking at embodiment, right? Like, where are they feeling all of this? What is the feelings in their body, and noticing all of that stuff. So then they can start speaking and understanding what that feeling is when they start to feel shame, what that feeling is when they start to feel like certain things. And then it's a teaching moment for them to go, aha. Yeah. Like, okay, you know, this is what this is about. And I know, and then maybe even bringing back to that conversation of, I realized I was feeling that, but I didn't know what that was. And now I can put words to what it was that I was feeling through that conversation with you.
Yes. Yes, that's where we take it. And in the right environment for both, right, it becomes an opportunity.
Yeah.
For deeper knowing and connection.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to give the opportunity for the person asking for consent to be able to back out themselves as well. Because I don't think, in my experience, every time I've said, I think I'm feeling something coming from you here. Can we clarify what that is? Not every person I ask that to is going to want to explore that. Sometimes they're going to want to go in further. Sometimes they're going to put a defense up. Sometimes they may go on attack mode, right? Or any variety of reactions. So I want people to know as well that no matter how you say it, please try to approach it with care and invite them to tell you where they're at. But if they are not willing to explore that, they have that right. That's consensual as well. And you also have the right to say, thank you. I also want to pull back from this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So what are some body language cues or energy or behavior cues that someone may be in that lowered capacity because of shame?
It could be a dissociation.
Mhm. What does that look like?
It can look like them shutting down, them getting quiet.
Mhm.
Um, it could look like, yeah, they just that fight and flight, or they just want to run. Like, I just want to kind of get out of this. I'm done with it, right? Or it could also be like, you have some that again don't understand consent, and it's like, no, we're going to have this conversation right now,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
we all have choice, right? And
Right.
it may not be the right thing for the other person to have that conversation right now.
Mm.
So yeah, it can look like, again, like I said earlier, staring into space and one is just kind of dissociating a little bit, or,
Mhm.
looking, whether it's various movements of their body, and you can see that maybe they need to ground, and like something is coming up for them. Like, right,
Mhm.
yeah, we're trained practitioners, so we're always looking and noticing like various things, but others may not pay attention to those things,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. Thank you.
hmm Alan.
Hmm.
I know.
Bodily cues.
Oh,
I would say I notice a lack of passion. And I'm thinking of someone who had the shame and they've agreed or consented, but there's a lack of drive, or they engage in the activity, but there's no, they're conscious that they're adult, they're willingly doing it, but there's no real, you can tell that something is missing, and you ask yourself, am I doing something wrong? They agree, verbally agree, there's no force that you're aware of, but
Yeah.
in actuality, if there's shame back there, they're doing it because the shame is driving them. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, if you ask bodily consequence for someone who's in that shame modality, where they're agreeing, because there may be something that's there that says I should, but back there they feel that whatever they engage in is a shameful activity to engage in. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It could be all sorts of things, but
Mm.
sexuality definitely is big for many people.
Yeah,
Um,
Mhm.
oh,
that's the
I mean,
obligatory. That's the obligatory, right? Like we do things just out of obligation, right? Like, yeah. But another one that came to me was like laughter. Like someone can
mm,
just, they're disconnected that way, but they something coming up for them and they just laugh, and you may think that they're laughing at you because of something that you said, but it may just be something that is uncomfortable for them, and shame is coming up, and all of their conditioning is coming up, and
yeah.
that's how they're dealing with it, right?
Yeah. So fidgeting as well,
Yeah.
right? Fidgeting or closing in with your body, turning away with your body,
Mhm.
not needing eye
Like that.
contact. Though again, these are cues to be asked about and explored because culturally, that's
Culturally,
not
right?
necessarily true for every culture,
hmm
right? Um, there's also fawning, which I think is really important to bring
Yeah.
forward here. People talk about fight or flight often, but they don't talk about fawning enough. And that is where we are agreeing because that feels like the safest place to be. Fawning is really familiar to me because I grew up with an alcoholic father that was explosive or incredibly loving. Explosive or incredibly loving. So I learned to always be trying to read his mood and morph myself to what I thought I needed to be for him to be in that loving place, right? So I was always fawning. Who do I need to be now? I'm going to, yes, dad, I'll be here. No, I'll be here. Yes, I'll be this. Yes, I'll be that. That's something I've had to really play with in my life. And so not enough people are realizing that that is also a protective reactivity. And I think that's similar to what you were pointing to, Alan. And I really appreciate that. There's an energy there often if we are self aware enough to be paying attention to the other person's energy. They said yes, but it doesn't feel like they're really there with you.
Yeah.
That's when we're going to stop and ask about that.
uh,
Or if then they say, I am here, but it still doesn't feel good because we're not getting the level of engagement that we want for to feel good in that situation, then we also have the right to pull out of it.
you've ever used the word energy consent before?
I love that because
yeah.
Energy consent.
I've been
I
in
would
the
say-
conscious and spiritual
energy-
communities as well. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I used that for many years because when I first learned to heal, I was in California, and they was teaching me techniques of healing. Right? They said you ask the person verbally permission to heal, but then you must also wait for an energy response. If they do not give you the response on the energy level, do not heal them. They're not connected with their inner self. Okay. And so I started healing, and I did that, and it's now part of me. I look for the energy consent. The energy consent, and this is, I will say, it tells me that on the energy level, things are okay. I do not know what their conscious level is, but their subconscious energy is okay with me. It doesn't mean I make any provocative statement, things like that, but my presence is okay. You see what I mean?
yeah.
And I look for energy consent in my regular work, but in everything I do, I look for the energy consent. And it's very subtle, but you're aware that on the unconscious level, they agree, they're connecting.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you physically say anything or you do anything, but on a deep level, there is a connection there. And I think it's important. Now, I may be with someone, or even a friend, and all of a sudden they enter the room and things like that. And all of a sudden I can feel, okay, I see their body. They may say hi, but there's no connection because something went wrong. And I have to be careful. I'm not going to ask what is wrong because that may be, trigger something, you know what I mean? But I'm going to treat them differently. Hi, how are you? It's wonderful day. I'm trying to see how far, is it something really, really negative? Something they didn't get something, but you could feel the disconnection. And I've been playing with this. I call it energy consent for a long, long time. And it's kind of fun. It just gives you another level before you even ask anything. You're feeling for the connection there. And I actually I invited someone recently, just yesterday actually, to do a talk because I've never met this woman, but we've had a Facebook love affair, okay? And we have a lot of connection. And I have my own group, so I invited her to speak to my group. And then she came and said, Alec, we've known each other for so long. We would never met each other. I know. And when we talked through Zoom, the energy was still there. But it was the first physical connection where we're verbally talking to each other. We still have not met each other physically, okay? But the energy, the vibe was there. And it was a great meeting that we had with her there, you know what I mean? Because they were there. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to say something to that if I can. Well, I'm going to because it's my show. Yes.
Right.
I give myself consent.
Right.
I actually really appreciate that. I really appreciate the verbally asking and then checking in with the energy. I do want to ask those watching to please verbally ask and then check in with the energy. Don't just think you've read somebody's energy and they're saying yes to you.
Right.
And then that's a consent. Because I've had definitely people, I've been in the spiritual, psychic, festival, conscious community for 35 years. And I've had a lot of people that came up and said, I know you said no, but I just could tell your energy wanted a hug from me. No, it didn't. No.
I don't know.
No. I don't know what you were reading, but this right here was not wanting your hug.
I disagree.
And I'm very self-aware, so don't think you know better than me about what my energy is saying right now. Okay.
But even that example, my earring keeps falling. Even that example, someone could just say like, "Oh, because they felt like they came over and said that, let me go ahead and give them the hug," right?
Right. Yeah. And that's fawning or just an inability to be able to say no. Yeah. Right. Oh my gosh. So much goodness, y'all.
That's funny.
So much goodness.
Let me modify the statement a little bit. I kind of agree with Christina, but I never went that route.
I want to hear your modification, Alan. I just want to say quickly though, that we are coming up on the time to do our, oh, hi, Shakia. Thanks for coming on.
Hey.
She says, I love the cross conversation and the importance of checking their energy. Thank you so much. I want to give us plenty of time for that resource roundtable as well, Alan, but please go ahead and modify and let us know what you had to say.
I was going to say that my journey into energy work has been a journey. So when I began to connect with people's energy, I never thought I knew exactly what it meant. It felt positive, so I thought positive. And then when I play with it, trying to be positive. Sometimes, like you, I would go to other person, but they're not connected. I never said the energy was wrong, but I never mixed them. I didn't say this give you permission to. It just on a subtle level, I could see it there. And so I try to use the learning experience. You know what I mean? Learning experience.
I agree.
Never just take it and act on it. It's just a suggestion that's in the background.
And please know, I did not at all assume that's what you did. I was not saying that. I don't have that assumption from you on any level. I just want people out there to make sure they're not creating a story in their own head about what now they get to go do because of what you were saying.
I totally agree.
Wonderful stuff, everyone. Thank you for the gorgeous flow of this conversation. I think we've just had so much rich back and forth and ideas and understanding for our viewers and each other.
Yes, this was really, really great.
Yes, thank you.
Anything that you want to quickly just really amplify or underline that felt important, or something you wanted to say about shame and empowered consent that wasn't said before we head to the resource roundtable? And it's okay if not, just want that space for you if there is.
Thank you.
I can't think of anything more to say.
Okay. Well, for you, those of you watching, viewers, either now or in the future, this is the point where you get to consent to either stay with us and watch the offers that may be coming up. Both Camilla and Alan are going to let you know. I believe, did each of you have something to say here?
I haven't thought I was going to say anything, but I can.
Okay, well, each of them may let you know about how you can work with them and how you can find them and what they're up to next, any offers that they may have put together, as well as myself. Hi, I'm here too. But I like you to be able to consent or not to being offered to. So if you want to stay and watch further about what else is going on and how you can work with us, thanks for coming and thanks for staying and listening. And if it doesn't feel good for you to stay at this point, thanks so much for coming and thanks for listening. You're very appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Do either of you have anything you wanted to offer or point people to of how they can work with you?
Well, I would say that my business, my metaphysical business, this is a hobby business. I do it because I love it. I have my regular professional life, and this is something I love. Spirituality, yoga, meditation, tantra. This is part of who I am. This is Alan, that inner Alan that can't go out completely everywhere. So something I love like that. So you can check me out, alanmcphee.com. I offer coaching. We don't do too much practicum because of the present world order, but I can give nice transformative work, and I begin with people wherever they're at. And that's what I'm going to say as far as my program. I do have a bi-weekly ongoing discussion where every 2 weeks, this Saturday just passed, we just had one meeting. Next Saturday, I'm planning to have another meeting. But I would say on October 2nd, I want to have at the Alchemy of Love is the one I'm working on. That's on my new baby. But every 2 weeks, I have a small group of people. We get together, and I take them to the journey of find out who they are. And last time, we had a group of powerful, empowered women. Woo-hoo! We talk about sacred sexuality. We talk about male's role in the world. It was just very powerful and powerful women getting together and sharing these conversations. And so these are free conversations because I realized we need to have the talk. You know, I have paid events as well, but these bi-weekly are free conversations that people come in and join because we need to create a community. It's like
Mhm.
we need a community to empower people so that, let's go to the movie with an empowered person. Then you can have an empowered conversation about the movie.
Love it.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to create, little by little,
Oh,
person by person. Okay? Look at
so
my
good.
website, alanmcphee.com. You'll see all that. Okay?
Oh, great. That's what my question was. That information is on your website about how people can join those conversations.
Yes. Go to alanmcphee.com. Yes.
Great. Thank you, Alan.
All right. Thank you.
And everyone, that information is in the description above. So you can get Alan's contact information there. Great.
Yes, and for me, you guys can go to flavorsofpleasure.com, and that's where I can be reached. I am currently just working privately with individuals and couples. I have some exciting things that I don't want to speak about just yet, but I have some exciting things coming up towards the end of the year, beginning of next year, doing some group programs as well as some retreats. So I'm really looking forward, and that's going to be domestic as well as international. So if you want to be informed and know what's going on, you can always just go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, and then you'll receive the information there. And then also, if you sign up, you'll get some free videos. So I do teach on a few things. If you just want to learn about various things, you'll have that resource as well. And if you just want to contact me, info@flavorsofpleasure.com. So yeah, and you can read my information as well too, here on the link, as well as on my website, as far as my experience and all of that. So I'd love to serve you.
Sounds great, Camilla. And yeah, Camilla's information is in the description above as well. So if people go to your website, they can just subscribe to get notified when you're going to launch your course. Is that correct?
Yes, they can do that as well. Yes. And then I'm in the process of updating my website and getting a new site. So everything is going to be new and different coming forward. So, definitely sign up just to stay abreast of what's going on.
Oh, that sounds good. And Camilla's Facebook, I'm sure you can find as well through our Facebook link.
Yes.
Wonderful. Exciting stuff. Yeah. Well, for those of you that have been watching me, I am showing up consistently again with these weekly Empowered Consent conversations because I love to get everybody heard and understood and fulfilled. So in the first week of October, I will be launching again my Speak Desire course, and that is where I'm helping individuals and couples to clarify and communicate their desires to each other so they can have that depth of intimacy and the amazing sex life that everybody is seeking. Yum. So, yeah, that hashtag or to my website is in the description above, as well as I think the link to the Speak Desire Facebook group is there. And if you go there and that, you join that group, then I'm going to be dropping all kinds of little tidbits on getting heard and understood prior to the course. So go check that out because you're going to get lots of tools in the meantime. Next week, we are exploring empowered consent and culture, how our cultural relationships impact our ability to give and receive empowered consent. The week after that is Tantra, and then it just keeps going from there. As always, the invitation is empowerment. I hope you all have a lovely, empowered, pleasure-filled day. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for the invite. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Camilla.
Thank you, Alan.